Hi, Albert. This is Neil from Dorkaholics, where we believe that there's a dork in everyone. It's our job to bring that dork out into the world.
Well, you got the right guy then.
Perfect. So, my first question is, what was your goal for the Continental as its director? And in regards to your directing, in what ways did you tie back to the John Wick films, and in what ways did you expand?
Well, I think the goal would be to keep the flavor of the universe and the world of John Wick, while taking a different road because we're back in the 70s. We're in an origin story, and you don't want to give the John Wick a hardcore fan base something that's done wonderfully well by Chad and Keanu, like an imitation. You want them to have a breath of kind of fresh new air. We get to reverse engineer things that we love from the film and place it in the 70s, which is a fun playground, not only because of the fashion and the music, but because we're introducing new characters as well. We have a younger Winston and we have a younger Sharon, which is interesting. But then you have to weave in who's around them, who's helping them, who's battling against them, and all that good stuff.
Hmm. And when you look back, what would you want the Continental to be remembered for amongst fans, new and old? Because I'm hoping the Continental brings in fans that aren't as familiar with John Wick.
I would say it's the thing I got when I was watching the Wick films as a fan and a moviegoer. Just a really fun, wild escape that you were able to check out and watch interesting characters with an interesting storyline and some nice eye candy, which they do so well, right? And not to just to let go of your life and come into this world of escapism, the subculture of assassins, the mystery, the mythology, the enigmatic nature of a lot of the characters, the idiosyncratic wild characters. Like it's just a fun time to be had. And it can get heavy because you introduce drama, but you also are trying to let the audience know it's okay to release and laugh sometimes and have fun.
Mhm. No, I definitely think my favorite scene that I've been telling people has been where they're fighting the apartment with the crying baby and the sleeping mother. Is kind of so over the top, but still very comical, but very dire.
I'm glad you caught the sleeping mother. I was worried about that. Like she's in a hard sleep because she's a drinker. Did you see all three?
I I got into the first two, and then I was like, I don't want to spoil anything before I talk to the
Yeah,
you and
yeah. Where do you see three gets wild? But I appreciate that. It's also like that character of Yen in which he does in that apartment, and that's all her, the actress who's actually very good at martial arts too. And then also getting a chance to play with some of my favorite commercials from my childhood. Are playing during that. I think it starts with a light bright commercial you hear, and then it moves on to a almond joy jingle.
hmm I mean, speaking of Yen, I was very surprised at her character's inclusion just because I'm Vietnamese American myself. So as I was hearing
Oh,
the
really?
dialogue the very first time, there was like a translation was like, I think that's Vietnamese. And then as it's unraveling, like by the second episode, it's like, okay, she's most definitely from
Well, do
Vietnam.
you understand it? Do
Yes,
you
no,
speak it? Oh,
I speak
wow.
with my family. At first, it was because of Frankie has a slight Western accent that made me
Yeah.
confused at first.
Oh, yeah. And then Miles in episode two, it's interesting how different actors take on they have to learn a language.
Mhm.
Hubert Pontijour, who was the actor that plays Miles in the second, first, and third episode, he had a musicality to his Vietnamese. And the actress Yen, that played Yen, Kate, when she was doing the first few takes with Frankie and he's doing Vietnamese, at one point she just broke out laughing. She's like, you can't say it like that. It means something else. You have to say it like this. And what she worked with Hubert, she looked over and she's like, he's really good, you know, they have to learn a short bit. They don't have to learn your whole language, but she is so impressive to me because the American audience who don't understand Vietnamese, what she's doing with her face, they're so subtle and you feel her emotion and her gamut of emotion. And she was a unicorn to me because when I first saw her audition, I was blown away because there's a tear coming down her face and she's acting and I don't understand the language. And I'm like, I feel her. And then they said, oh, wait, she has an action reel as well. I'm like, what? She can do action. So we got so lucky with her. She's one of my favorites. She's one of my friend's favorites. So I'm so happy for her.
No, I was like what you highlighted about the facial reactions, just because for me, I've never heard Vietnamese spoken in this way, speaking of life or death stakes before.
Yeah, I wish I knew Vietnamese so I know, so I can appreciate what you're talking about.
And for my last question, this is a Dorkaholics question I love asking people is growing up, what made you a dork or what did you dork on about?
Oh God, that's a really good question, and it's pretty easy because we were considered dorks because we like doing holding our camera and shooting our friends, making movies, and some of the kids at school would make fun of us. We're geeks or dorks. I guess they can be one and the same. And we're into some things that the masses aren't into. And being a dork, I also can think could be like, if you're Vietnamese, if you're black, and if you're biracial, how the greater culture looks at you. They're not one of us. Oh, they're just a dork. It's like, well, no, we've got a chip on our shoulder. We're ambitious. We're creative, and thank you for calling me that.
Yeah, from one dork to another, it's been great speaking with you, Albert. Congratulations on the Continental.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
Mm-hmm. Have a great
And
rest.
go to 3. You got to get to 3.
I'm gonna watch three right after this call.